People love to say, don't worry, technology will save us. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the things we invent to make life easier are the very things that poison us. 60 years ago, the world was obsessed with a chemical known as DDT. It was hailed as a miracle, a cure for malaria, a protector of our crops, and a wonderful solution to our pest problems. And then came Rachel Carson, a quiet marine biologist who shattered the illusion. She revealed how this so-called miracle chemical was silencing the birds, sickening the people, and threatening life itself. Today, we're living through déjà vu. Only this time, it's not pesticides, it's plastic. And it's not just plastic bottles floating in the ocean. I'm talking about invisible microplastics that are already inside of you, me, and pretty much everything else that's alive. This isn't just history repeating itself. It's a warning that we haven't listened to. Let's rewind back to the 1940s and 50s. World War II had just ended, industry was booming, and science was delivering miracle products to the masses. One of those miracles was DDT, a synthetic pesticide. Soldiers used it to kill lice and mosquitoes carrying malaria. Farmers used it on crops, and suburban families even sprayed it in their backyards right next to the barbecue. DDT was everywhere. And the logic was simple. Kill the bugs, solve the problem. But what people didn't realize was that DDT didn't stay where you sprayed it. It drifted into the wind. It washed into the rivers. It lingered in the soil for years. And it built up inside of the fats of animals and humans. Enter Rachel Carson. In 1962, she published Silent Spring. Carson wasn't a radical. She wasn't against all science or progress, but she noticed something nobody wanted to talk about. The birds were dying. Robins dropped dead on lawns. Bald eagle populations collapsed because their eggshells became so thin that they cracked before hatching. Whole ecosystems, my friends, were unraveling. Her book spelled out 3 devastating truths. First, that chemicals don't stay put. Spray a field and the poison ends up in rivers and in milk and even in breast tissue. 2, they build up in the food chain. A little in the soil becomes a lot in worms and a deadly dose in birds that eat those worms. And 3rd, control is an illusion. Every time humans tried to dominate nature with chemicals, nature fought back. Pests evolved resistance, ecological balance shattered. And the most haunting image? Carson imagined a spring morning without a birdsong. A silent spring. She warned, if we keep poisoning the earth, we're ultimately poisoning ourselves. The reaction was explosive. Chemical companies went on the attack, and they painted Carson as just a hysterical woman unqualified to question science. But the public listened. Silent Spring sparked congressional hearings. It led to the eventual ban of DDT in the United States, and it inspired the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. One book, one voice, and a tidal wave of change. Now let's fast forward to today. We've traded pesticides for a different invisible threat, microplastics. Here's what they are. Tiny plastic particles, smaller than 5 millimeters. They come from plastic bottles breaking down. They come from synthetic clothing fibers. They come from tire dust on highways, even from the toothpaste and the face scrubs that we use on a daily basis. We produce over 400 million tons of plastic every year, and a huge fraction of it never disappears. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller fragments until it becomes dust. Scientists have found microplastics on the peak of Mount Everest, at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean, in seafood, in drinking water, in breast milk, and in human blood. In other words, if DDT was the invisible poison of Rachel Carson's times, Microplastics are the invisible litter of ours. Let's uncover the chilling parallels between DDT and microplastics, and we'll do this by putting them side by side. They both spread everywhere. DDT drifted through rain and rivers. Microplastics float in the air and circulate through ocean currents. They also have bioaccumulation. DDT concentrated as it climbed up the food chain. Microplastics pile up in the stomachs of fish, birds, and ultimately humans. And they both have unintended consequences. DDT thinned eggshells and nearly wiped out bald eagles. Microplastics clog the digestive systems, disrupting hormones, and may even carry other toxic chemicals through our cells. But here are the big differences. DDT was one chemical. It came from one industry. Banning it was painful but possible. Microplastics? Well, they come from everywhere, from clothing, packaging, cars, cosmetics. There isn't one factory to shut down or one product to ban. There isn't a single problem. It's a system-wide problem. Carson's ultimate message wasn't just about pesticides. It was about humility. She reminded us that humans are part of nature, not separate from it. So when we try to dominate it, we end up hurting ourselves. And that lesson is screaming at us today. The plastics we designed for convenience are coming full circle now. They're in our oceans, they're in our soil, and they're in us. Think about that. Every sip of water, every bite of food might carry traces of the plastic world that we've created. Rachel Carson didn't give up, and neither should we. She called for alternatives, working with nature instead of against it. So today, that could mean designing biodegradable materials and packaging, reducing the use of single-use plastics, which here in Canada we're starting to do quite well, rethinking entire supply chains, and just like in Carson's time, demanding accountability from industry and government. And maybe the most powerful thing that we can do is to stay awake. Keep asking the hard questions. Refuse to believe the myth that we can dump things into the world without consequence. So let me throw this question at you. Is microplastics our generation's silent spring moment? Will we learn from the past, or are we about to repeat it? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, and if this gave you something to think about, hit the like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more deep dives into how history can help us navigate the crises of today. Because here's the truth. Nature always keeps score. The question is, will we listen before it's too late? Thanks so much for joining me today. I will see you again soon. And until I do, remember I love you. And I'll catch you in the forest.